أحس حالي بفيلم تيم بيرتون.
هالمشهد أثار اهتمام محبين مسلسل مدرسة الروابي للبنات، خاصة واندمج مع مشهد من مسلسل الرعب الكوميدي ونسداي. فشفنا من مدرسة الروابي للبنات ركين سعد اللي أدت دور نوف، وجوانا عريضة اللي لعبت دور رانيا مع مديرة مدرسة نيفرمور من ونسداي. ومسلسل ونسداي اللي تم عرضه من شهر تقريبا اليوم ما زال ضمن قائمة المسلسلات الأكثر مشاهدة على نتفليكس، فحقق 5.3 بليون فيوز بأول أسبوعين على عرضه. ومؤخرا دارت التساؤلات حول مصير الجزء الثاني من هالعمل، وإن كان سيذهب لأمازون بعد شرائها لاستوديوهات MGM المنتجة لمسلسل ونسداي، إلا أن هالكلام لم يتم تأكيده بشكل رسمي. بالمقابل منصة أمازون برايم هالفترة تحصد مشاهدات عالية على مسلسل The English، واللي جمع ببطولة تشيسك سبنسر وإيميلي بلانت.
She was such a surprising character because she does appear so hopeful and innocent, and yet she's quite tenacious and fevered in her need to enact vengeance for the death of her son. But, you know, I think as the show goes on, it really reveals itself the extent of her personal loss. And so you understand why she's going about it with the violence that she is.
فالعنف والقسوة اللي جسدهم إيميلي بدور الأم اللي تسعى للانتقام من قاتل ابنها يرافقهم حرية رمزية، وهذا اللي شجعتها على خوض هالتجربة.
Because of what she's been through, which you realize as it goes on, because she holds this secret for a long time, and she's gone through something so traumatic. So I think she sees this reclamation of who she is ahead of her, and in order to get that, she has to avenge her son's death. And that looks like freedom to her. If she's able to do that, she's able to reclaim who she is, and she's able to be free of this sort of fever that she has and this need that she has for it.
وبرحلة الانتقام تلتقي بمحارب طيب يؤدي دور تشيسك سبنسر اللي يرافقها بالسعي نحو الانتقام.
You alone? Anyone in there with you?
No.
Nothing you can do.
Because I'm a woman?
Not your fight. Don't pick it.
ورغم أن هالقصة تدور أحداثها ضمن طابع الويسترن، إلا أن تشيسك وإيميلي رأوا فيها فرصة للتجديد ووضع بصمتهم الخاصة بهالنوع من المسلسلات.
Well, I grew up on westerns, and the thing that I wanted to do this is, you know, most of the time when I was a kid, playing cowboys and Indians, I always wanted to be the cowboy. And so I think when the English came around, and plus you saw in the past 10 years or so, a lot of diversity is going on in Hollywood. And when I got a hold of English, I've always wanted to play a character like that. I've always wanted to play the Clint Eastwood or, you know, the Jimmy Stewart, because that's what I grew up. I grew up on Westerns. And at the time, I didn't know the political ramifications of a Western. I was just a kid wanting to, you know, get in a world to pretend.
For me, I mean, I also grew up watching Westerns. My parents love a Western. The first one I saw was Old Yeller, and then I remember my mom showing me Shane, and I was just inconsolable at the end of Shane. I think people love that restoration of justice that goes on in a Western. Those themes of justice are really, I think people have always been gripped by them, and those huge, big landscapes and the loneliness of the characters within the landscapes. I've always loved a Western visually. So it was a thrill for us to get to do it and try and carve out new space for ourselves within the genre. It's a genre you can kind of get outside of a strict reality. And this one felt fresh.
وطبعا اللي يقوموا بأدوارهم اللي ضمنت الكثير من المشاهد القتالية وركوب الخيل، أبطال العمل خضعوا لتدريبات مطولة.
Horse riding we both trained for a few months before we started filming. Because I feel other stuff I've done, I've sort of been okay at horse riding, but this show, we are always on a horse, and you kind of need to look like you know what you're doing. Because people back then, they were sort of at one with the animal, and so it was not about us hanging on for dear life. We really needed to be able to do it. And I loved that prep. It was wonderful. And I rode about 8 different horses when I was prepping it, so that by the time I got to Spain, I could ride any horse that they were going to throw at me. And luckily the one I got was he was such a magical horse. I was so in love with him. And the shooting the rifles and the bow and arrows, I mean, Chasuke had to do a little more of the weapons training than I did. And because you had to do all the tricks and the spins and the one-handed gun cock and all that.
All that stuff you want, all the cool stuff. Yeah, get all the cool stuff.
I feel like you had more training, to be honest.
أما في السينما فإيميلي بتجتمع بعدد من النجوم مثل كيليان مورفي، روبرت داوني جونيور، مات ديمون ورامي مالك ضمن فيلم أوبنهايمر، واللي يتناول قصة حياة العالم الأمريكي جي روبرت أوبنهايمر، وهالعمل المفروض ينعرض بالسينمات يوم 21 يوليو.